Hi everyone.
Hello guys. Welcome back to episode
I think this is going to be 9 now.
9, episode 9 of Beyond the Credits.
Today we're going to be talking about our recent watches, what we've seen in the cinema recently, and also just some general film news. At the time of filming this, the BAFTAs were last night. So we'll touch on the BAFTAs and then just some other film news that's come out. There's not been tons, really.
No, it's more kind of the build up to award season. So although things that came out maybe a while ago in the US, things are coming out here that we're getting to see and
exactly.
come out at the minute. But yeah.
Let's start with Wuthering Heights, the biggie.
Yeah, let's start with that. What did you think?
I actually enjoyed this more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. Obviously, we did a podcast episode on this. I did enjoy it. I didn't think it was too long. I kind of like brain dumped after I'd seen it. So I'm just going to read from, the things that I wrote. So I really liked the parallels of them going back and forth between the older and younger versions, especially towards the end. I thought that was quite effective.
Yeah.
I really liked that when it was a certain montage at the end where they flicked back and forth. Was there hands in it or something? I thought the younger parts were played really well. I thought the girl that played young Kathy was amazing.
Really good.
She was really, really good. Martin Clunes played a great part.
He was brilliant.
He was so good.
Brilliant.
I was really glad to see him in a role like this. The whole style, the whole grandiose, the whole set, the costume, I loved.
Yeah.
I thought gowns, beautiful gowns. You've ever seen that? Where she's like, gowns, beautiful gowns. The dresses, every time Margot Robbie came on screen, I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
She did look good.
The house, the scene where it snowed outside the house. I just thought, I loved the, as I say, the grandiose of the whole set. I think when a film has good style, I can't not like it.
Yeah.
I did really, that's the thing that I probably enjoyed the most about this film was the stylized approach by Fennell. The songs and score, I really, really liked. Obviously, that's Charlie XCX. Although, considering she released a whole album, there was only about 4 songs.
This is one of my points as well. I've got something to say about that. I think they used her as a marketing pawn.
Exactly.
Fully. I think, obviously, she did initially ask her to do a song, and I think that sparked a bit of a creative flair within Charlie XCX. And she's then gone on to do the album. Album's cracking.
The album is fab.
Brilliant. And it is, you can tell it's really sparked something, it's some kind of inspiration for her where it's, it's tapped into that, but they did only use a few songs, but maybe they didn't intend for an album to go alongside it.
No.
But I also do think they've made it out like the album's intertwined into every facet.
Yeah,
of it.
We had Wall of Sound, which just kept playing over and over again when it was the start of Wall of Sound. Whenever they'd meet, we had Chains of Love, banger. And then we had a House. And we had Always Everywhere.
And they had the is it called Opening Up or something? It's a bit of a instrumental interlude sort of but in terms of they didn't play the full songs, did they? Was it Chains of Love that was played during the montage of the sex scenes and stuff? Was that Chains of Love? Yeah. As I say, I did enjoy the songs and the score, but and I do get the repeated motifs. I do get why they kept using them. But I think maybe I would have wanted more just because they made it such a big thing that she was going to be attached to do the score. I mean, Jacob Elordi, I'm on my knees. He was so fit. He was, Yes, when he reappeared and he obviously when Heathcliff comes back and he's made a life for himself, I was just with his earring. Yes, yeah.
I enjoyed him just for the aesthetic.
No, same.
Alison Oliver, I thought played a great part of Isabella. I really, really, really enjoyed her performance. I really hope that Emerald Fennell and Alison Oliver kind of become a bit of a muse for each other. You know how certain directors pick their certain actors. You've obviously got Yorgos Lanthimos with Emma Stone. They've become pretty certified. Scorsese De Niro. Exactly. I really hope that it's Fennell and an Oliver because I think obviously she did Saltburn. She played a really good character in that. Don't know if you've ever seen Task, but I've seen a few scenes. I haven't watched the actual series. I still need to watch it, but I've seen a few series and she plays a really, really good role. I think she's literally just won the Irish Film Award for her performance in that. I thought Alison Oliver was fab. The right person, wrong time concept is just, I think, is a slay concept.
A slay concept?
Yeah. I just really like this in film. A right person, wrong time.
I agree.
I just think it's a good, exactly. I do think kind of you can't go wrong with that. On to the more points that I was a bit disappointed by. I feel quite catfished by the trailer, personally. I would watch that trailer in the cinema, and the more and more, when they released, I think it was the second full trailer, I actually got goosebumps at one point because I thought it was so well produced. It was such a well done trailer. In the film, did not get 1 ounce of goosebumps, and I was really thinking that I would get that. It just fell a bit short for me. Obviously, we did a whole episode on this, so we were quite clued up in terms of like what they said in interviews about like the eroticness of the whole film. Go all the way. Where was it?
It was tame.
It was so tame.
Saltburn was raunchier than that.
Yeah. I genuinely thought,
I was sat there and I was
we had that montage in the carriage and stuff, but
That was
personally for
nothing.
me, it really fell short in that sense. But I feel like you have more to say on that, so I'll let you go.
I thought this was an insult to Emily Brontë. I thought this was tacky. I thought it was superficial. I thought it was... The only thing that saves Emerald Fennell for me now is the fact that I love Promising Young Woman.
Yeah.
If she had not have made Promising Young Woman and her debut film was Saltburn, and then this, I'd have gone, what? I watched this thinking, does she even like this book? Because she talks so passionately about it, and I just thought, if I did not know that this was made by her, I would have thought it was made by an old white, privileged, rich Tory man who hates the book. There were parts of it that I was a bit annoyed at that as I was watching it, and then as I've thought about it afterwards, and there are good parts about it. I don't think it's terrible, but I was thinking more about other things afterwards. One thing that struck me when I was watching it is that it's only half of the book. So they missed out a lot of what happens after Cathy's death. They changed certain things and they depicted certain characters in a way that I just thought was unnecessary. One, for example, getting rid of Hindley. I didn't get that. Isabella,
there were so many plot holes with her, wasn't there?
Yeah, Isabella was reduced to she was fetishized.
Yeah.
I think the book depicts the abuse that she experienced at the hands of Heathcliff in a way that is so dire, and it is really also reflective of his character that also wasn't depicted through Jacob Elordi's portrayal. It's so much darker, it's so much more complex, it's so much more dirty and musky and ugly. These people they're deeply flawed, they're vile, they're in love, they hate each other, they love each other. You know, there is so many complex elements to it. Can you pack them all into one kind of 2-hour long film? No, you can't. But I do think the amount that was kind of just eradicated with no purpose was odd. I thought that the depiction of Isabella was just really disgusting. I didn't think she needed that scene of her in the winking with the dog collar on was like a bit of
the dog collar,
making out that she enjoyed it, and that's not what the novel portrays. No one's actually mentioned this, and I've seen a few reviews and I've watched a few things about it, but no one's mentioned the scene that I actually found was really gross was Cathy's death, because in the book she dies from complications of childbirth, but the child survives, so she doesn't miscarry, so it's Cathy for the rest of the book. So she's obviously changed it so that Cathy miscarries. I didn't get why you needed to literally have blood so excessively sort of cascading down the floor. I didn't know whether maybe I'm ignorant in saying that. I felt like that was just a bit of an insult to anyone who has experienced a miscarriage. I don't know. Maybe that is actually how bad it can be. I don't know, but it just felt a bit sort of hyper dramatized and a bit insensitive. That was one thing I kind of thought that's unnecessary, and it's not even in the book. When the casting was announced, a lot of people obviously were rightly, and myself included, very sort of trepidatious about Jacob Elordi being Heathcliff. And I, going into it, was thinking maybe she's made it in a way that kind of gives the benefit of the doubt, but it makes it work somehow. But I did find that in watching it, it proved to me that no, he did indeed need to be that dark-skinned, ethnically ambiguous person that we know from the book. Because Emily Brontë, this book is not... on a whole, I'm not going to go on too much, but on a whole, this book, I think Emerald Fennell has shrinked right down to Catherine and Heathcliff, and it has become this impassioned sort of sexy sort of right person, wrong time love story, when in fact it's a love story. It's also a bit of a horror. It's also, it's a gothic tale about two people whose love and obsession with one another is what ends them.
Yeah, and it's a self-destructive love, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
and it's so much more complex than what it was made out to be. And I think that depicting him as a white, having him not be a person of color, I do think that took away from a lot of what the novel says, because a lot of it, as when you read it, you realize got racial elements to it. And she has so much to say about class, about race, about, you know, him coming from a port in Liverpool, like he's probably been a slave, like that might have happened. Also, Emily Bronte's father was a part of, like, I believe Patrick Brontë was a part of the abolitionist movement, so he was a part of it, and he kind of campaigned and worked towards abolishing slavery. And also, the Brontë sisters had women who were really rare in the sense that their reading was never censored, so they could read anything, and their imaginations were just led to just roam free, and they could have, you know, there was no limits on what they could read. There was no sort of like requirements to only read things that were geared towards like gentility as a woman, things like that were very common at the time. She would have had such an awareness and an insight into issues surrounding, you know, colonialism and race, and, you know, and all of these things that she intertwines into the book, into the subtext of it. It's so entrenched in it, and I just think Emerald Fennell didn't care to acknowledge that. And this is this could have been a much more intelligent, interesting, complex adaptation. I just felt that it was reduced to something that wasn't Wuthering Heights for me. Her interpretation of it, I just thought, was a bit surface level, and there wasn't a lot for me. There wasn't a lot of nuance. And I just thought it was a bit disrespectful in many facets. The Isabella thing, especially the whole, you know, Heathcliff thing. I just didn't think it reduced it to something that it didn't deserve to be, in my opinion. However, I did think Martin Clunes was great. They gave a bit more meat to the father.
I quite liked the fact that they did,
I wanted to combine Hindley and the father together. Did think they could have gone a bit harder on, I don't know.
Hindley,
on that. I did think the title card was unreal.
Beautiful. The title card, wow.
It looked stunning. It was visually...
Like, the scenes on the moors, like...
Yeah, they were amazing.
They were...
It looks amazing.
It does look amazing.
I did think Margot Robbie was great as Cathy, actually.
You did?
I did think she was good.
I think she was really good. She played it well.
I think she was a bit too old, maybe.
Yeah.
But then again, I also did think she depicted her quite well. I think I got more from her than I probably did from Heathcliff. I thought that the music was great. I thought the score was beautiful. I thought like a lot of the performances were there. I just, I wish I wished Heathcliff was depicted as more of the kind of narcissistic, neurotic, abusive, complex, weird, flawed character that he eventually becomes. But yeah, she only focuses on half the book. She only really indulges the love story element of it. Like what you said before, you know, it was this whole sort of, it's sadomasochistic, it's complex, it's this, that, and the other. I didn't really get that from it. And also, if you're going to make it a horn fest, like what you marketed it as, make it a horn fest. Like, I'm sorry.
I completely agree. Like, I think there was so much attention to detail in terms of the set design, the costume design. And I'm really glad that she did put all of that effort into it, because obviously, as we said, as a film, it was so visually stunning. Her bedroom that was her skin.
Yeah.
The fact that they had a perfect model of the house as a doll's house, and like there was a shot where, was it at the end of the dining room where they zoomed into it, or they zoomed out of it, something to do with the house, but I thought that was done really well. Like, that was a really good, nice kind of scene swift move. But yeah, I do know what you mean. I think
it went Wuthering Heights.
No, and I do get, obviously, adaptations nowadays. Like, when was that book written?
1840s.
So obviously 200 years, not 2,000 years, 200 years, the world's changed. So I do get, you know, you've got to kind of bring the adaptation up to, it's obviously not going to be how you would have adapted it in the 1800s, but a 300 and whatever page book, my nose is streaming, a 300-page book, you're obviously not going to translate all of that into a 2-hour film. It is hard to do, but I do think she kind of maybe prolonged certain scenes when she could have kind of been using a few more plot devices within that film.
And yet you're so right. You can't, she's even said this herself, you can't make Wuthering Heights.
No.
But I just think if you're not even going to touch on the contextual elements that make the book what it is, and make that those contextual elements of it have really kind of been the thing that has ensured that it stood the test of time, other than, of course, you know, her dialogue being just absolutely impeccable, and her writing is just off the scale. Like, no one can like lace her boots. But I do think there was just so much stripped away that it felt so immensely, not even adjacent to the book, but it just felt so removed from it. And I felt like it was just rooted in a real sort of sense of ignorance from Emerald Fennell. Like, and also, if you're going to make it raunchy and you're going to market it as a film that is like full of sex, where was it? I
was expecting so much more. I kind of came out being like, I've seen way worse.
Oh my God, I'm not being funny.
In a film that wasn't even, in films that haven't even been like marketed as Hornfest or
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting a lot more. I just think if you're going to market it as that, go all the way. We saw it with Promising Young Woman, we saw it with Saltburn, but I think this is probably one of the more tamer ones.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so though. I kind of resigned myself to the fact that it was just going to be like, you know, a complete Hornfest, sex, and I was like, right, come on, Jacob, get your kit off. However, I couldn't lean into that at all because it didn't lean too extremely into any sort of direction for me. I mean, visually, it's breathtaking. That set, that production design was something else. Yeah, it really was, and you can't fault it for that. But I just think from Emerald Fennell, I would have really expected a well-educated, very privileged woman who was, she was at Oxford. Like, I would have thought she would have, like, all right, yeah, she wanted to make a film about how she felt when she was 14 when she first read the book. But as with age and with time, I would have thought that her perspective would have shifted on it in a way that would influence the way in which she made the film. So I would have thought other kind of meatier, sort of more dense elements would have come into it. And I do think she has the capacity, and she did at least have the capacity to make something that was rooted in a little bit more of the themes of the book and not just love, because love and obsession and, that kind of complex sort of turmoil of their relationship is so, like, it is the grounding force of the book, but it only really resides there due to all of the other sort of contextual elements. And I think the fact that colonialism, class, race weren't ever touched upon in any sort of dense way was just a bit of like you can't really do Wuthering Heights if you don't do that. However, I would have had more respect for her if she'd have gone, Nick given it a different name and gone, I've taken interest in the
it's
book.
Interesting because obviously the title's in quotation marks, but did that ever really get explained? Personally, I was entertained in terms of, like, I wasn't bored. I enjoyed it visually, but yeah, when you kind of deep dive into it afterwards, I gave it. Were you?
Yeah, I was a bit bored.
I gave it. What did I give it? 3.5 stars. I gave it
2.5.
The next film that we saw was Is This Thing On? Finally caught this in the cinema. I feel like we're quite late to the party on this one, but I'm really glad. Yeah, I'm really glad we did see it in the cinema. First of all, Will Arnett, unreal. Take a bow.
Yeah, really good.
Such a good performance. I thought it was so understated and had so many layers to it. I think it was quite a complex character in terms of the things, the emotions and feelings. I thought it was more hard hitting in the start of the film because it's quite fresh. He played it quite raw. If you don't know, the film is inspired by the real life of John Bishop, which
big up John,
the Scouse comedian.
The Scouse comedian.
And Bradley Cooper heard his story and decided to kind of like take this. He made it he Americanized it, didn't he? Yeah. And it's basically a story of how he started comedy, and it was basically just after him and his wife kind of went through a rough patch, decided that they're kind of going to get a divorce, but kind of didn't decide it at the same time. Will they? Are they? Like, he was even a bit confused. And then it's a story about how they kind of like rekindle, and it's good.
It's a good film.
You wouldn't think like there was that much to it, but I think with the added characters, like the supporting cast around it, it was quite good. It was done really well. I really liked the direction of it. I really liked Bradley Cooper uses a lot of close-up shots, and I feel like that really adds to the realism and the genuine storytelling nature to it.
Well, I thought that, and I also thought it added to the comedic element of it, just because they was kind of so up close. And they were so kind of random. Yeah. I was like, I'm actually laughing out. Like, there's one scene where he opens, does he have bagels when he's opening the door and Bradley Cooper's there with bagels? And I was like, he's like, I got bagels, but it's such an up close shot. It's like, it doesn't need to be that up close. But the fact that it is, I do think it leans into the humorous element of the film. Yeah. And in the heavier moments, when you've got a shot like that, for me, it kind of reminded me that it's kind of rooted in humor and comedy.
It really adds to the authenticity. And I think it also kind of mirrors, obviously, when you're doing stand-up comedy, you are like, it is such an intimate setting. Like, people are literally at your feet watching you do comedy, and I think doing comedy is I could never do that. Oh my god, imagine. You've got to the confidence you've got to have, and kind of like the bravery to do that, to stand in front of all those people. But I think also like the camera shots when he was doing his stand-up, that also added to it. You kind of felt like you were there. No, I know. I'd have to be. Oh my god. But like there was one bit where he was speaking about, was it his like bicep or something, or his arm? And they like just did a slow pan to his arm and then went back to his face. And again, like, it just adds to the community. It was a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be.
I really laughed at this.
We really did,
good. We found it really emotional, didn't we? Like, it was, especially at the start, like what you said, it was really rooted in that kind of a really sort of familiar emotionality that felt very authentic. You could kind of tell that it was, for me, I don't know about for you, but I could kind of tell, and I really recognised the blend of comedy and humour in life, and also how that it kind of interweaves into hardship, because a lot of people, I think, especially when you're from like where we're from, like the north, particularly the northwest, it is some like humour is a massive facet of our culture. I mean, just in general anyway, I think being British, but dealing with and grappling with such a hard like moment in your life where you're living away from your kids and you don't really know what the crack is with your relationship, and you're having to, you're leaning into this new sort of realm of comedy. That sort of, it really mirrored the fact that people really do get by on humour. I mean, at least I do. And I think a lot of people from like this part of the country do. I got that essence from it, even though it was Americanized. I really enjoyed the fact that I could recognise, and I really identified with that blend of humour and heartache, and trying to like get on with your life, having the two kind of existing in
exactly
equal fashion.
Like they had 2 kids, they've got to kind of keep the kids' lives as normal as possible, like as much as they could. And I did really enjoy it. The only thing that fell a little bit short for me was I kind of expected like goosebumps in terms of the emotionality of it. I thought it was going to kind of like rip my heart out a little bit, but it didn't.
Then
I
liked it.
Did you? I don't.
So
I
it's
think
not really
maybe,
normal
but
to
I
me.
think exactly. I think I went in with the expectation, thinking I was going to be like, oh my god, like this is so like heart wrenching. But that it was probably just because it didn't feel like that, because that's not how it like panned out. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just it is as simple as what it was on screen.
I think that's what makes it unique as well, because a lot of the time that is the way things go in these kind of stories. When
they
you get
need
back
to be
together,
dramatized.
it's like like when you need to be dramatized. Where it didn't actually try and do this, which I actually really enjoyed because I found it really identifiable. Like I think you can you recognize this kind of couple. I found them very familiar to me.
Yeah,
like, and I really enjoyed that. And I didn't think I would. It didn't. Usually, I'm like you. I do like it when it leans more into the kind of excessive or like dramatized versions of
like real life.
I do, but the fact that it didn't, it just worked for me, because I think as well because the characters are sort of rooted in their own sort of selves, and they were very sort of normal, and I recognized these people in a way. I'm not leaning in too much of like dramatizing their romance. I did think that worked. And I also found, like what you said, the performances, Will Arnett was just so good. Laura Dern, I feel like I just felt like
she never misses.
They were so familiar to me, like that kind of relationship and that kind of
he was dynamic, so authentic,
family dynamic, even down to the parties and the friends.
Even the kids, they were just very like real, and you really believed that they were like this. They were once this close-knit family, and this has kind of been a bit. His mum and dad.
Oh, his mum and dad was so funny.
Yeah, Kieran Hines.
He's so funny. I just, it really works. I think Bradley Cooper's done a really good
I really enjoyed it.
job there. The irony though, I think his last film was very Oscar baity and it wasn't my favourite.
Yeah, Maestro.
But this really isn't, and I love it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Just like simple, normal.
He was good in it as well.
Really relatable. I think a lot of people have watched this and kind of really related.
Yeah. Only thing though, I didn't love. Oh no, I did. I just thought it would be the stand-up scenes might have been a bit funnier. I know obviously he's going through a divorce. Yeah. But I just thought maybe a bit, I don't know. I just thought it could have been a bit funny. I did think the comedy would be a bit more.
I don't know. I think it made up for that, but I think also probably when you do start stand up, you're probably not going to hit every single mark.
That is so true.
Because it was his first time. True. Yeah. But I think it probably made up in other comedic elements of the story. Like it made up for the humour. Do you know what I mean?
No, it did. I think
that's why it was funny elsewhere.
The whole film was really funny. I was really laughing. Just not necessarily in the stand up bits, which I was a bit shocked at. But like what you're saying, that just makes sense. Maybe it was just because I wanted that as a viewer.
Maybe.
I don't know. But I really enjoyed it. It's one of them films that, like, if you saw that it was on the telly, I'd be like, oh, let's stick it on. Yeah. It's great. But, like, I do enjoy it.
It's one that I would recommend. Like, if it was on, I'd say, definitely watch that.
100%.
I watched Emily hasn't seen this, but I just went to go and see Send Help. It was a fun watch.
Is it a Korean film? Or am I just making that up?
No, it's not a Korean film. It's Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. Rachel McAdams. She must be studied because she never ever misses. She's always top tier.
Dylan
O'Brien, I know, so rogue. It was a little bit slow for me, but it was a fun film overall. I'd say, like, maybe if there's nothing else on at the cinema, go and watch it. But like, and if it was on TV, I'd be like, yeah, it's a watch, but I wouldn't be like, oh my god, you need to watch this film. But it was a laugh. It was a laugh.
Okay.
It was like you can't really go wrong with like a survival. It was like a survival story, and it's just, I find that interesting when people like fend for themselves. Like I find that interesting on screen.
Like Castaway too.
Exactly. The next one that we watched,
yeah,
we've both seen this, is The Moment.
This is fresh in my mind because I saw it last night.
Yeah.
You go first. What were your thoughts?
I wasn't a huge fan, not gonna lie. I kind of went into this very blindly. I didn't really know what to expect. I knew it was a bit of a mockumentary, documentary film. I thought that it was all dramatized. So I thought in terms of like Charlie XCX was playing a pop star, but she wasn't playing herself.
Oh, did that what you thought?
That's what I thought. But I kind of came out... Exactly.
Would have been better.
I was just very confused because she was playing herself, Kylie Jenner played herself, Rachel Sennett played herself, and then you had people like Alexander Skarsgård not playing himself. You had people like Anne from Motherland not playing herself. And that for me... That didn't work for me personally. I was just confused watching it, and I was just a bit like, but then because like some people were acting and some people weren't, but then Charlie XCX was acting. I really thought she was acting.
Well, she said under Graham Norton, didn't she? She's playing like or did she say in other interviews as well? She's playing like a different sort of like exaggerated version of herself that isn't very likable. So it's you know,
and it just didn't work for me. I don't think it's a fair film to kind of base her acting talents off, her acting capabilities off. I just thought it was a very rogue mix, and
it was.
Maybe it's because I kind of came out of it confused. I thought it was a bit too long. I thought an hour and 20 minutes would have been enough.
How long was it?
An hour and 40 something.
Yeah.
It was, it did feel it. And I did come out of it I came out of it with an open mind because I did speak to like a few people who are fans of Charlie XCX, and I went to go and see it with 3 others who aren't massive fans. Did you go with
Tad?
No, I went with Lucy, Kara and Grace.
Okay.
But like we were saying, maybe if it was someone like Billie Eilish, who we are a bit more clued up about in terms of her personal life and her career, maybe we would have enjoyed it more because we would have understood kind of like the themes behind it. Yeah, for me, it just didn't really work. I gave it 2.5 stars, and I was just a bit like, anything on my Letterboxd, if it's scored 3 upwards, go and watch it.
Right, I've seen Charlie XCX live, and I went mad, and I was in a crowd of kids who literally, I went to Park Life, and I was like, why am I going there? The ripe age of 23, but like, I only went for her. I was like, I can't see her in concert, so I'm gonna go. I was obsessed. I love her, and I've loved her before Brat. She has an album before Brat, I think it's called Crash. And she brought an album out in 2020, like during lockdown, that she just made at home. Like which is brilliant. I think she's fantastic, and when Brat came out, I watched a lot of her interviews and stuff, and how she's talking about Brat Summer and like what it Brat is, and you know when it should end and whether it should ever end, and a lot of people talking about it. First of all, like the good parts, there were moments in it that I really giggled at. Like there were specific moments, like that whole like the guy coming up to her saying that he's killed himself and he's got the Brat car and he's like saying it's like that was funny. Alexander Skarsgård had some funny moments. The best part for me and the best performance in it was Kylie Jenner.
Again,
when
I
she did
appreciate that because I was just like, this is so weird. Like, why are you here? Like, it was just so random.
It was random. I think the format of it just didn't work as a whole, but the specific moments I did laugh at. When she did the apple dance, I creased. Timothy Chalamet has taken that girl to the side and gone, listen, we're practicing. Get your scripts out. Obviously, Charlie XCX is playing an exaggerated version of herself. As is Kylie Jenner. She's really conforming to like the vision of like idea of what people think she is.
Whereas Rachel Sennett just played herself, queen.
Yeah, no, like, literally.
Queen. Yeah.
I know. Whereas Kylie Jenner, in that hyper, you know, like accentuated state that kind of she depicts herself in, I just thought it was really funny. I thought she kind of pokes a bit of fun of herself in a way. I did think it kind of indulges this whole like capitalism versus creativity trope in a way that's quite repetitive. We've heard it all before. We know that the music industry is notoriously fucked. Like it's bad. It's quite toxic. Everyone kind of knows that, and I do think it leans into the whole, you know, label versus artist sort of thing in a way that is very familiar. And I think she tried to. The film is done in a way where it kind of I didn't know what it was trying to say about that, and I didn't know whether it was trying to make us feel sorry for her because of that or whether it was trying to be funny. I think it tried to blend the whole vibe of satire, comedy, and drama in a way that was quite superficial and quite self-indulgent. You could argue that in itself is a bit Brat. Yeah. But if it worked, and if it didn't work for me. I thought the plot was also quite naff.
the plot I do get
naff.
like in terms of when I researched afterwards, because as I say, I did come out of it with an open mind. I was open to kind of like seeing the hidden themes and the hidden metaphors in that. Like an artist starting out, you do kind of have to conform to the classic like
she did.
things of the music industry.
A lot of shit
there was a video that I got sent the other day of her doing like a Powerpuff commercial, a Powerpuff Girls commercial at the very start of her career. She looks so young, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, she obviously did that to kind of appease like the people in the music industry. And I do get she's kind of been very clever in terms of she's done all of this to get to where she is now so that she could, you know, do whatever she wants in terms of what she has done with Brat. I came out of it thinking I would have actually preferred it if it was an actual documentary of Charlie XCX when Brat was released and how she kind of dealt with that massive fame, because she was known before because of the classic boom clap, I don't care. And then she just kind of like absolutely took the world by storm and literally took over a whole season with Brat Summer. And I personally, I would have found it more interesting seeing how she'd have dealt with that absolute catapult back into the fame.
See, I would have found it more interesting if she'd have lent into why Brat Summer took off.
Yeah.
Why the whole concept of Brat, what it is to be Brat. Why did that appeal? Why did being a bit of a messy bitch appeal to the masses?
Yeah, because it's like dirty girl aesthetic, but drugs,
yeah.
like hardcore partying.
Why is that count? Why is this sort of like isolated facet of culture becoming like mainstream in terms of pop culture? Why? How has it made its transition from there to there? And what kind of inspired that? That could have been done in a way that was more entertaining. It could have also still been funny if you'd like, because it's a funny sort of like trashy.
And I think she is quite funny. She is funny as a person.
She's funny as fuck.
She's making smoking cool again. Like who can do that? No one apart from her.
She's had such a impact on culture, and she's really given a voice to a lot of women who don't want to be polished. That's what I think. And I do think the film could have really acknowledged that a bit more, and instead of being so sort of indulgent and kind of hyper focusing on her difficulty with, you know, whether Brat's gonna end or not, and like it was very just sort of focused on an exaggerated version of herself that I didn't really invest in because I didn't know whether it was real or not. And I just think it took itself too seriously. I think even though it was funny in parts, the other parts of it that took itself too seriously were they ruined it for me. It could have been a really good sort of fun commentary on why it worked and why it was what it was, instead of kind of bashing it. Like, she kills Brat in the end. Why do we need to kill Brat? Brat's a lifestyle, babe.
Yeah, that was our roundup of recent watches. We hope you enjoyed. And comment your thoughts below.
Yeah.
If you've seen anything or seen things that we haven't seen yet. We're still yet to see. I'm seeing The Secret Agent tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to see that.
Frankenstein we're booked in to see because we don't want to be biased. We want to watch every single Best Picture nominee on the big screen, apart from Train Dreams, because that's nowhere to be seen. But
side note, very quick though, in terms of like when you mentioned Frankenstein, then I was thinking the fact that they're bringing it out now because it's getting so much awards recognition. The amount of films, for example, film
going
news
straight into
streaming, Peaky Blinders.
Shocking.
You bet your honestly, I think people are going to be fighting tooth and nail.
Emerald Fennell and Margot Robbie ate by not giving the highest bidder, i.e. Netflix, a release of Wuthering Heights.
The one thing that I like about that film. But my favourite thing about that is not even the film itself, but the fact that that's the decision they made.
Exactly.
Why the bloody hell is Peaky Blinders getting a selected cinema release?
I know.
That is criminal.
And they're all down in London. They're all down in London.
That trailer is immaculate. I'm so excited to see it. I am not watching that on my sofa. I'm going to the pictures.
But anyway, we hope you enjoyed.
Thanks.
See you for the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.